I can't leave a legacy in the US. I wish I had raised my son in Ghana.
Jacqueline, thank you for joining me on the Diaspora Conversation Podcast. You moved to the US at the age of 5. How do you think that has impacted your identity?
At that young age, there was never a place that I felt I belonged. It was education that saved me. I've been a teacher for 11 years, and as you're chasing that dream, you realize you start losing things in the process. The time you have left is less than the time you've lived. It's a very powerful thing. I had the confidence of being raised in America, then I had the cultural grounding that my parents gave me.
After 53 years,
I didn't quite fit in the family I was living in. My current salary is a 6-figure salary. You cannot have that timid nature and go out into global society because you'll be eaten alive. There's so many opportunities.
you need to go to the Ministry of Education. We only live once. What legacy do you want to leave? Jacqueline, you moved to the US at the age of 5. Similar to me when I moved from Ghana to the UK at the age of 5.
Wow.
What do you remember and how do you think that has impacted your identity?
Very good question. In fact, it caused me to grow up to be a child who kind of felt lost. There was never a place that I felt I belonged. When I was in the US, you behave like you're too African. Then when I come to Ghana, you're too American. I left when I was 5. In the early 70s, the idea of an African person being around wasn't common. So I became an oddity. You know, why do you speak like that? You know, what kind of food do you eat? Do you live on trees?
Oh my goodness.
You know, do you have a tail? Do you have hospitals? You know, questions.
What?
And they weren't just from the children. It was more out of curiosity, a lack of knowing. Nowadays with social media, that really wouldn't be the case because social media has really shown the world what's really happening in Africa, the truth. But in those days, I was an oddity. And because I wasn't understood, I kept to myself.
Okay.
Very, very quiet. I got good grades in school, but I was very, very quiet, very introspective. I did a lot of watching and reading and, you know, formulating my own reality in my head. Right. So people sometimes would accuse me, oh, she's mean, she's not friendly. No, I was just being a very thoughtful child trying to find her own way.
Right.
And I didn't quite understand who I was until I came to Ghana in 1988, since 72. Something happened in me. It was like, wait a minute, this is where I belong. I was 21 at the time, so I was away for 16 years. Right. And I was like, no, I need more of this. I need to find a way back. What stopped me were my relatives. Why do you want to come back to Ghana for? We tried to go to America, you want to come back here? The suffering, you know, all the things they had to say because they had a perspective of what it was like to live in the US. Because, you know, the grass is always greener, right?
Of course.
Yes, but they don't understand that there were certain things that you give up in America. Yes, you are well compensated in terms of salary-wise, but what do you lose in return?
Your time.
Yes, and time is a non-renewable resource. You don't get it back. From that point in time, it took me almost 30 years later to have the courage to say, I don't need to explain to anyone why I want to come back. I know I want to come back. And watching someone like you talk about Ghana in a very unapologetic way, that kind of motivated me and made me feel like, you know what, I can do this. So I plan on like taking early retirement in a few years, and I have a lot of plans for Ghana.
Fantastic.
Yes, I'm excited.
So let's go a little bit back. Growing up as a Ghanaian child in the US at that time, I know you mentioned a few bits, but what was that journey like?
It was a very lonely journey. I was living in the US with my mother, my stepfather, and my 2 sisters. I didn't quite fit in the family I was living in. It wasn't until I reunited with my father and then met his side of the family that I began to realize, wait a minute, I'm more like them than I am like the family I grew up in. Now, the family I grew up in, don't get me wrong, I love my mother, my stepfather, my sisters, but I just felt like I was missing something. What I learned from my mother and my stepfather is hard work. And then my mother, she was a teacher in Ghana before she immigrated to the US. And being that we didn't have Ghanaian people, other than family members that may have lived in other boroughs, my mother kept us very close-knit. So I really didn't go outside to play much and things like that. And if I had a friend had to come over, they had to come over to our house. My mother didn't want us to go to their house. So I became very close with my sisters. But I didn't have any real outside bonding. So it was a very lonely existence in the sense that there was something that I was missing, but I just didn't know what it was.
In America, they always talk about the American dream. How has that impacted you in terms of, this American dream and this African dream that you have?
The American dream is a real thing, but you also get on the American hamster wheel.
Okay.
And as you're chasing that dream, you realize you start losing things in the process because you're working to pay bills. I was joking to someone, I've been here since June, yet I got a text, water bill is due, but there's nobody in the house running water. But you're paying for the infrastructure. You're paying for the fact that there's water available to your house if you need it. If you don't need it, it's still going to charge you for having it available. And I grew up very early understanding that material things in the end don't count. So what I did a lot was I infused a lot of things within me. And it was education that saved me. Wherever education was going to take me at that young age, I didn't know. But I knew that was what was going to save me and take me out of that rat race, as they call it. Even if you were born in America, it doesn't mean if the environment is not conducive to what your soul yearns for, then it's not the place for you. America has been very good to me, has given me the courage that I need. If I grew up in Ghana, maybe I wouldn't have had that level of courage. So I had the confidence of being raised in America, and then I had the cultural grounding my parents gave me.
So what does home mean to you now? Is it Ghana or is it
Ghana.
the US?
It's Ghana. In fact, if you tell me to travel somewhere else, I'd be like, what for? I'm going to Ghana.
Wow.
One time my son and I took a bus ride to upstate New York. It was 7 hours. I said, wait a minute, 3 more hours I'll be in Ghana. What am I doing? Everything is Ghana, Ghana, Ghana. And I'm so grateful that my son has a love for Ghana as well.
That's good. Were you intentional about that?
Yes, I was.
With your son?
Yes.
What did you do to make him also love where you're from?
Told him stories of what I could remember when I was in Ghana as a small child. I let him also know the difficulties that I experienced in America, so that if he were to experience the same difficulties, he wouldn't feel isolated or alone, because we're very similar in character. And from the time he was 3, he's been coming to Ghana. And of course, at home, I cook Ghanaian food, play Ghanaian music. So right now, he's a housing advocate, but he's also a part-time DJ.
Okay.
And his DJ handle is kweku.nyc, and he plays Ghanaian music.
Tell us about the creation of Mama Brew's Classroom.
As his career change, I went from doing human resource work to get into education. And I've been a teacher for 11 years and then assistant principal for 4 years. And I'm starting as a director of curriculum specialist at my school. I've been with the same school for 15 years.
Wow.
During that time, I saw the need for the type of education that children like me needed, because they may be different in the way they do things. Because sometimes education is one size fits all. So I created this website, Mama Brew's Classroom, to give resources to teachers. And what really motivated me was because I planned in 2 years to come to Ghana. I bought some land in Suhum, and I'm going to build an early childhood education center. Because one thing I noticed about Ghanaian children, they're too timid. And if we are going to make them 21st century learners or global citizens, you cannot have that timid nature and go out into global society, because you'll be eaten alive. So what I want to infuse in the children at my school is the courage that I gained from being raised in America, the cultural grounding of Ghana, combining the two, culture and courage. Those kids in my school will be unstoppable.
My goodness, I love that. And when you put a 5-year-old child from the US or UK next to a 5-year-old Ghanaian child, you can see that. You can see the difference in terms of confidence, where the UK or the US will be outspoken, asks a lot of questions, even though the young Ghanaian child has all the questions in them, but they're just scared. How do we develop our own African dream?
Well, I feel to develop the African dream, it starts with education. Education is a very powerful thing, and it's something that every child, no matter what economic level they're born into, should have access to a quality one. When I did a lot of surveying of the needs of educational situations in Ghana, it landed on 2 things: teacher training and availability of resources. So my website has resources for sale. However, I also have free resources. And even the ones that are for sale, I was telling one of the teachers at the conference that I just attended, I gave away some free resources to the teachers, because when I went to schools and I see what they're using in the classroom, they're making the best of what they have. And I have to respect that. They're not working from a place of lack, right? But I think we need to give them better. And I said, go onto my website. If you can, print it out. That's fine. The directions are there. Create your own and use my directions to facilitate the instruction.
You need to go to the Ministry of Education. Yeah, you do. And you need to hand them a proposal.
Nice. Okay.
And say, I'm a Ghanaian.
You're right.
This is what I've learned. And this is where I think that Ghana can benefit from.
Yes.
And hand those proposals. Because Jacqueline, you have learned so much. What you're saying is true.
Yes.
Okay, and so you coming back, giving back those skills and that knowledge is vital for the development of Ghana.
I appreciate that. I do, because what motivated me also is I created my own original framework of how to address the needs of children in general, but Ghanaian or African children in particular. And it starts with being culturally responsive to their needs. And culturally responsive is not because this person comes from this area, they need this. I'm looking at it from the lens of the child. The individual child is their own culture. You have 2 children in a home, they don't need the same thing. Once you build a relationship with the children in your class and understand how they learn, what they like to learn, what their interests are, have conversations, once that relationship is solidified, there's nothing that child won't do in terms of learning for you. And I think that's crucial. And then you bring the parents on board. Let the parents understand what you want to do for their child. Because I know parents have the dream of the world for their child, but sometimes they don't know how to get to that point.
Myself and my husband were talking about how we have 4 kids, they eat the same food, they're brought up the same, but they're all different.
Yes.
They learn differently. And so you're right, it's about tailoring what that person likes and how they learn.
Yes.
Like my daughter, she is not academic, but she has other skills. And so then you develop those other skills for them to be able to learn. You can go to other schools around to provide them these services.
Yeah, listen, 2 weeks ago I came here and I was given the help to apply for educational consultant business. So my educational consultant business is Nyan Sao Paul Educational Consultants. Nyan Sao Paul is like wisdom, wisdom not right. Because we are going to ground the consultancy or the teaching with wisdom. I believe that a lot of the solutions to our problems are embedded in our Adinkra symbols, because they are the answer to everything, right? I'm very big on Anansi stories. Because even though Kweku Anansi may seem like a negative character, you can learn from his mistakes and then even use it as a learning tool for children. He did this, what could he have done better? Because Ghanaian children also, they weren't taught how to think critically. You ask a child, what is your favorite fruit? They may say mango. Then you ask them, why? Then the conversation is lost. They can't tell you why.
Yeah, it's true.
But they must be able to, because if you can't explain why you like this, then how can they engage in deeper, more meaningful discussions? Yes. Yes.
You're absolutely right. Yes. I love it. Hey, the schools are calling. I know they're calling.
Listen, I'm ready to work with the teacher training council. Yes, to train teachers. I am very passionate about that, because if you don't give the teachers self-efficacy, the belief in their skills, how can they in turn give children the belief in themselves? Yes.
So how do we bridge that cultural gap when it comes to teaching and diverse students?
Well, one of the first things I would suggest any teacher to do is that when you have your classroom, I know you may have 30 kids, some people have 60, 70, take the time to get to know your children. The first month of school, use as an exercise to get to know your children. Give them simple questions. What do you like? How do you want to learn? You know, what interests you? What do you find difficult? And give those same surveys to the parents. Let the parents tell you what their hopes and dreams are for their child. And then tell the parent, well, I'm going to help you realize this, but I need your help on board. And the kids need resources. They need teachers to be trained. Because if the teacher's not receiving the proper training, they don't realize that what they're doing is not as impactful as it can be. Don't talk about things in a curriculum that the child has never seen or heard of. Don't do things to devalue what they see and what they have heard of. Infuse their cultural knowledge and understanding in the curriculum. That's crucial.
Okay.
Yes.
How often in the US do they change the curriculum?
Oh, probably every 5 years. A lot of the things is based upon not what is new and improved, it's what's new and approved.
Wow.
So the changes are made under the guise of this is better. But then you realize that there was nothing wrong with what we had before. Just a simple tweak, but you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and then start all over again, even though the intentions are good. So I'm a firm believer in teaching children, especially in the younger years, the basics.
Okay.
Because when you have the basics, from there you can build on. Because any building that the foundation is not solid, it will fall. It will fall, yeah.
So if you had a choice, where do you think children should be raised? Should they be raised in the UK? Should they be raised in the US or Ghana?
That's a tough question. I'm a little biased on that because there's elements of the US that I experienced that I don't regret.
Okay.
And I think it was that experience that let me value what Ghana has to offer. You know, everybody has what their soul needs and what the soul desires, right? I wish I had raised my son in Ghana. Okay. I wish I had the opportunity. If I could go back, I would have. Okay. You know, that's like a personal choice.
For me, I wanted my children to be connected to Ghana.
Yes.
To have friends in Ghana.
Exactly.
Because one of the things that I lacked, we moved out when we were 5, and so I didn't have friends here. Yeah. And I've seen that a lot of people come back and they've got like friends in banks and friends in different places, and I'm just like, oh, I want that for my children, where you can just pick up a call and just say, Charlie, and they'll be like, Charlie, come. You know, just having that. And I think it's also good for them to be grounded in terms of their culture, their heritage, and where they're from.
Yes.
What advice would you give to diasporans who are thinking of relocating to Ghana?
I would say that outline your goals and take measured, meaningful steps towards the goal. If you put yourself on a timeline, it can get a little bit scary. Once you decide this is what you want to do, then plan backwards. Okay. Picture yourself in Ghana and then plan backwards as to how you're going to get there. Okay. You know, if you have children, you have to consider the education, you know, find a good school. Like with my son, I wanted him to finish middle school in the US and come to Ghana for high school and then college, but it didn't work out that way. So depending on the time in your life that you are, and then also the job that you have, if it's a job that can transfer the skills here, by all means look into that. And I believe that, and I think you said it many, many times, that Ghana is technically a young country. And there's so many problems that you are the one who has the solution for. Absolutely. So look at it from that. Don't look at it from the lens of negative or lack, but look at it as there's so many opportunities that you can now infuse yourself in and help solve. Yes.
What has been the breaking point for you this time around to say, you know what, I want to leave? What is happening in the US that you are just like, you know, after 53 years of your life in the US, that you want to give it up?
I think as you get older, you begin to realize that, I don't want to sound morbid, you realize that the time you have left is less than the time you've lived. And you want to make the second part of your life more meaningful, more impactful. You want to leave behind a legacy. And I can't leave a legacy in the US. Wow. I can't. That's not where my soul and my happiness and my joy is. So I want to leave a legacy where I know my soul is at peace and I can make the most impact. I talked to my financial advisor and we figured early retirement. Okay. And I was going to make the move. If early retirement was 5 years ago, I would have left 5 years ago. But financially, I have to be realistic because I'm coming here to also build a school. My current salary, I mean, I'm not going to quote you the exact number, but it's a 6-figure salary. Somebody said, why are you leaving 6 figures to come here? Basically, your salary is zero. Yeah. It's okay. I've saved money. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know how to live within my means. Because one thing about Ghana is you can live as rich as your means allows you, or you can live as poor as you want to in order to save things. And in Ghana, when you buy something, it's yours. In America, right now, I have a house that's a 30-year mortgage, right? In 30 years, first of all, I'll be in Ghana longer for the 30 years, right? So either I'm going to rent it, I'm going to sell it. I'm not going to let those material things that I own there hold me back for living a more joyful second part of my life.
You mentioned at the beginning that family, friends are asking you, Jacqueline, are you okay? Do you have mental health? Are you on medication?
Like why do you want to,
why do you want to leave a 6-figure job to come to the continent and struggle and go through stress?
The stress here I can deal with. And when I come to Ghana, I bring my medication and I go back with the same medication. I don't need it. Other than malaria pills every day, I don't need it. So something is going on here that's not happening there. And even the simple things with the food. The food in the US is so processed for obvious reasons, for longevity, that my body reacts very badly to it. A few years ago, I came here and I took a leave of absence to help my mother out with a few things. And we were doing Zoom meetings for my job. I was working remotely. My coworkers couldn't stop talking about how I look so different.
Wow.
Oh, you look so young. You look so good. I said, oh my God, I must have really looked bad before. And then when I returned, they said, oh yes, you look great. I said, we'll see how long that lasts. Give it 2 weeks. Give it
You're back to normal.
So people themselves see the change in me when I
glow.
come. Yes. Yes.
The melanin was popping.
What? Yes.
I love that.
Even though they may discourage me, they know deep within themselves that I need to be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And have you encouraged some of them to?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I have one friend of mine. Listen, when I told her you were going to, she said, Jackie, I can't believe it. Lady Denta, tell her I said hello. She's a teacher also in the US and she does a special education training.
For special needs?
Yes. And I said to her, that skill.
Ooh. Sis, you need to come back.
Yes, that skill. And I'm working with a lady, Rosalind.
Okay, Rosalind.
Yes, I'm working with her. I want to do some teacher training. In fact, on my website, Mama Brew's Classroom, there's a section that's dedicated to their organization where their teachers can go on and get some information on dyslexia and activities and skills that they can learn from there. Anything involving children so they can have the life that they were meant to live. Because I believe that everybody's born with a certain gift. And that gift is to help mankind. What we don't do as adults is that we suppress the gifts of children because we don't understand it. But you don't need to understand someone's gift. You just need to support it. That's all you need to do. And that's what I want to do.
That's what you want to do. And you've also mentioned that culture is a child's superpower.
Oh, yes.
Tell me a bit about that.
Culture. If it wasn't for the grounding of my Ghanaian culture, I don't know what I would have done in the US. Knowing that I came from a culture that had everything it needed, you know. It may not be to the standards that somebody else may decide what it is, but that's their opinion. You can't live your life by somebody else's opinion. I've grounded that in my son, that as a Black man in America, don't let anyone tell you that you're less than.
How do we raise courageous, confident children? You know, when we're in the diaspora, sometimes we lose that because we're not going back frequently. We've lived there for so many years, and so we're now adapting to the culture that we now live in. How do we keep grounded and rooted in our culture?
It's not easy because life in America is so fast paced that you let certain things go or slide, but bringing the children back is important. Even wearing the clothing is important. Talking to them about your life in Ghana. So when my son comes here and he has to go fetch water, he doesn't think anybody's crazy because it's like, you know, this is just part of what life is in Ghana, you know. You have to let them know that living life is being able to be flexible and to be able to live in any kind of circumstance. But I think as parents of children who we want them to be grounded in our culture, give them a window into what that world looks like. And send them back as much as you can. If you can't, books. Talk to them about folk tales, celebrations, the music. All of those things keep your children grounded and let them know that if things get too tough, there's always home to go back to.
How important is it to have representation in our books?
It's very, very important because when I was growing up, all the dolls or the TV commercials had non-Black people. It wasn't until I must have been maybe like 10 or 11 that they started making dolls that were different colors. Nowadays, you find it more often.
Yeah.
And even crayons. They have different shades, right? The school that I want to build is called Abura Kids International School.
Yeah.
And I've created these characters, the Abura ambassadors.
Oh.
There are 14 children, each with a day name, 7 boys, 7 girls.
Okay.
Right. I'll show you the one that's a Koswa.
Yeah.
It's almost like you though, coincidentally, yeah. So you give them just the day name understanding is important, you know. Let them open up a book and see a black young boy wanting to be a scientist, wanting to be a doctor. Right. Let them know that as long as you're willing to work hard and put your mind to it and persevere, success is what you make it, you know. And if you work hard, there's no reason why you shouldn't succeed. Yes.
Right. What book or story do you wish that you had read or known about when you were younger?
Ya Santua. I've heard elements of her story, but not in depth.
Right.
Her story, and then also I found in my early 20s at a time where I was really lost and not knowing where I wanted to go and what I wanted to be, because I wanted to become a medical doctor like my father, but I didn't grow up with him. So I'm like, why am I really wanting to be a doctor? And then God took me to the library of my college. Wow. I went to the card catalog. I looked up my name. I couldn't find Ward-Brew. I started to laugh. My mother told me that, oh, your father comes from a very prominent family in Ghana. So I'm like, okay. I sat back down. Something told me, no, go, look. My name is Ward-Brew. So I looked on the Brew, and there it was a book, The Brew Family of Cape Coast.
Wow.
Outlining the entire family tree up until my grandfather. And we saw who all our relatives were. The Casely Hayfords are part of the Brew family. And then that opened up my eye.
That where you come from?
I read that book from front to back.
Wow.
And just looking to see what my ancestors did before. Wow. And knowing that I have that DNA in me.
Right.
So failure is not an option.
Absolutely
And
not.
that particular book, plus the story of Ya Santua, those two things, I think if I had that earlier in my life, I'll be a force to reckon
You are still a force to be reckoned with. What message would you give to educators who are educating young people on how diverse they need to be, how creative they need to be? Because now we need to be creative when we're teaching young people.
Yes.
The attention span is different. The way of thinking is different.
Right.
What would your advice be to them?
I would say still guide children, because you have to guide them and show them the way, but listen to them.
Okay.
Talk to them, have relationships with them, ask them, what do you like to do? You know, if you see a child that seems more gravitated towards drawing, let them express themselves in that way. Okay. I feel that every child is born with an innate skill, a gift. And the worst thing you can do is to suppress it so that it fits what you feel should be. So listen to the children, guide them, have conversations, build relationships, and they will help you help them.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. In what ways have you seen children transformed when they're given that cultural identity when growing up?
My son is an example.
Okay.
Very, very confident. He can stand and speak in front of anybody and not feel fearful because he knows who he is, where he came from, and that he has a place in this world. And I think once you give children that, they can navigate anywhere in this world, because if they don't have that level of self-confidence, which I feel culture is the only thing that can bring that to you.
Okay.
Culture is very grounding. Don't suppress children. I mean, guide them, of course, because they're children, but don't suppress them. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And do you think that we do in Ghana kind of suppress?
That's the culture. Because a child's trying to talk, and before they can even say the word, you're telling them to keep quiet. Teach them how to communicate maybe in a way that you may deem more respectful.
Right.
Because I believe this is a very respectful culture, and that's something that should never be taken away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Children have to be respectful, adults have to be respectful.
What advice would you give diasporan women juggling motherhood and, trying to pursue their dreams, but also thinking about returning?
Don't be too hard on yourself, and know that you may not be able to do everything at once, but do things in baby steps.
Okay.
And prioritize. And just keep your mind focused on what it is that you want in the end, because it's possible. You can do it. I would have given up a long time ago if I had to give up, but God was driving me.
Yeah.
He knew He wanted me where he wanted me at the time that it was needed. I wanted to come back earlier, but I feel that God's time is the best time. I feel that this is a time where I have all my ducks in a row. My level of confidence is high. I'm very, very committed and determined, regardless, that what it is I'm going to do when I get to Ghana is going to happen. Because when you're walking the path that God put you on, you have no choice. Absolutely. You have to obey.
You do. You have to trust and obey.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What keeps you rooted? What keeps you going?
My son's strong belief in me. He's my biggest fan. He believes in me at times when I don't even believe in myself. Yes. In fact, when he dropped me off, he said, "Mommy, good luck."
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. He really keeps me grounded. I don't want to disappoint him, and I want to be his role model.
Has there been like days where you felt really frustrated and really low? What were some of those moments?
Some of those moments where I'll be in Ghana, something will happen, I say, "Oh, God, I need to go back to America. I can't take it anymore." But I'm like, no, that's just a moment. Because certain things with the infrastructure and having to navigate the little nuances. And I realized that in America, you ask a question and they're very forthcoming with the answer. In Ghana, you need to ask the right question. Otherwise, you'll never get the answer. It's like you're pulling. It's like, well, why didn't you just say that?
Yeah.
Well, because you didn't ask it.
Yeah.
Okay, but you could have volunteered the information.
Yeah. No, they won't.
No. I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah. Ghanaians don't know how to say no.
That's the problem.
They don't know how to say no. They'll say yes and not realize that them saying yes has destroyed something.
Yeah.
Because you could have stopped me from doing something. But you said yes, so I'm thinking that you can do something.
Yes.
And so that's something that you learn when you're here.
Yeah. I asked a lot of clarifying questions. When you say yes, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. You
explain yourself. Yeah. And if you can't explain yourself, then the conversation is basically over because your yes is not a confident yes.
Not confident yes. They're just there to help, but they are actually not helping when you do that.
Right.
I'm so glad that we're at a point where a lot of diasporans are wanting to come back. As I keep saying, we will be part of that economic development that Ghana needs and Africa needs. And us sharing these stories will motivate more people to come, because there are a lot of people that are just like, hell no, I'm not coming. There's too much frustrations. There's too many things going on and I'm happy where I am. But the skill that they have could transform Ghana.
Exactly.
And so I think, sharing more of these, you coming back, you building, people seeing, and they're like, yeah, this is how we're going to be able to do it, because the more of us that do it, the impact that we're going to make.
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, something as simple as getting my business registration, you guys did it for me.
Yeah.
I didn't have to run through all the hassles. You did it. And if people realize that there's an organization that's going to hold your hand and help you along the way, Ghana ASCD Educational Conference, today was the last day. The Black Americans who have been to Ghana only for the first time, I've asked a few of them, I said, would you come back again? They said, oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I would talk to them. I tell them what I'm doing. And a few of them said, oh, well, you know what? Sign me up. I said, so we exchanged contacts because when they see the fact that I told them my story, like, wait a minute, you left when you were 5 and you want to come back. Something's happening here. And because they're educators like me and I want to build a school and we do professional development, they want to be part of that as well.
I think it's really important that we bring just one person along so that they can see and they can also be impacted as well.
Yes.
Jacqueline, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
I hope that you have enjoyed the conversation.
Oh, I have.
Trust me, we're going to be following her journey because in 2 years, we will sit back down and have a conversation about her school and how she's built it and where she's staying and what she's doing. We only live once. And so what legacy do you want to leave? Do you want to leave a legacy outside or back home in Ghana? Thank you so much for watching.